Welcome to the Future Proofing Your Nonprofit. This is a 3-part virtual series with an optional force. And I'll explain to you what that means if you're still not sure what that means. But this series is close to all the hearts of everyone that's on this panel. Today we're going to talk about unlocking your digital potential. And then we're going to dive into the on the next session. We're going to dive into the power of we. We're going to talk about partnerships, and not the partnerships where someone tries to call you up or sends you a LinkedIn message and then tells you how they want to partner with you to help you reach 50,000 new followers. That is not a partnership. Don't even get me started. And I know you guys are going to have a lot to say about that. September 18th, we're going to talk about innovation for good, and then our VIP session, which is what we're going to need you're going to need VIP access to get to that. It's going to be about we're going to do a live makeover of an actual nonprofit. So we'll give you more information on that. But what I want to say is we're going to give time for any Q&A. This is recorded, so there is a replay of this, and our objective here is not to sell you. We're not here to sell you anything, but we do invite you to connect with us if we're talking the same language that you're interested in continuing to talk about. So I'm going to pull this down after I show you. Of course, today we're talking about unlocking your digital potential. So let's get into it. Let me pull this down, and let's first of all meet our panelists. And then take it from there. So Matthew, why don't we start with you? Give us about 30 to 60 seconds of who Matthew Silverman is.
Hey, Jimmy. Thank you so much for arranging this. So I'm Matthew Silverman, currently live in Atlanta. I run my own digital boutique consultancy company, focus on digital marketing. People ask me, like, who do you like to work with? And I like to say, grateful clients, grateful companies. And that's a fantastic answer, but it's not an answer because I like to work with companies where I can make a difference. And that's a big deal because not every company I work for, you're making a difference. Sometimes you're a very small cog in a very large wheel and there's a million other employees, but sometimes you actually make an impact on people's lives and what goes on. And I do that through marketing. So getting the right message in front of the right person at the right time and excluding literally everybody else. And that's, I think, a lot of the things that people don't talk about online is, oh yeah, let's run your marketing, let's do lead gen, let's do this, let's do that. But very few people talk about, well, who do we need to exclude? Who's not your ICP? Let's get them out of the marketing funnel, advertising, because we don't want to create extra noise. We just want to be in front of the people who you want to talk to.
Beautiful. Okay. Chris, let's start with you. Let's go next to you.
All right. So again, thank you. What do they say? Long-time listener, first-time caller. It's great to be on the show. It's great to be part of this panel. And I've spent better than 30 years in the nonprofit space, all of it in fundraising, most of it in planned giving or legacy giving. And since retiring, I've gone full-time into trying to make planned giving a reality for nonprofits of all sizes. So oftentimes we get stuck in the smoke and mirrors that so much accompanies the more technical sides of planned giving. But in reality, 92% of the time, it's incredibly simple to do. It's just simply answering donors' questions the way they need you to answer them. And it's incredibly simple to do, but that which is simple to do is simple not to do. And because planned giving so often gets kicked down the road because of other pressing needs, I need to make the budget this year, I need to pay the electric bill this month, planned giving often gets kicked down the road. And so my job is to help nonprofits see the value in it and actually, in some cases, go out and do it for them, that hands-on role. So that's what I have been doing for the last several years for this panel. I'm looking forward to the way that's going to translate into future-proofing the nonprofits. And of course, through those years in nonprofit, I've touched on all the different elements of it. So we'll bring in all the different elements of development and fundraising as we talk about the marketing and the communications and the partnerships and what is out there.
Wow, beautiful. And Sean.
Well, first of all, it's an absolute pleasure to be here. I love being on the other side of the microphone for a change. I say that whenever I'm on a podcast or doing something like this. But my name is Sean Littman. I'm the founder of GiveSuite.com, a nonprofit software platform that is an all-in-one to enable organizations, small organizations, to elevate, accelerate, grow, and scale. Because my background is digital marketing, been doing it for over 10 years, and I've been working in nonprofits for over 10 years after seeing how many people just sucked at marketing with nonprofits. And that's kind of what I do with everything. I see where people just, to say it nicely, suck at what they're doing, and we try to be like 10 steps ahead of it. So with GiveSuite, we've done that, incorporating different things to help organizations grow and scale without breaking the bank, to manage their donors, fundraise, and market. Because I always say you can't do that unless you're marketing to people, and all these other companies focus on that. And with the digital marketing stuff, we specialize in the Google for Nonprofits program, cultivation and growth. Because sustainability is not just saving the environment, it's about really growing your organization, cultivating your people, and building a fan base. And if you don't have a fan base within your organization because you're not marketing to them, you're not going to have an organization very long. So that's what we do. That's what I do. And I'm happy to offer my insights on this panel because I like to do that. So So,
Okay.
and I look forward to just really having these conversations, diving deeper into this with you guys, because we always have good conversations, but like sharing our knowledge collectively to people and seeing how people can benefit from it.
Beautiful. And so, Matthew, you said you're Atlanta. Chris, I believe you're Kentucky. And then Sean?
I am in Israel, so if anybody cares, I don't.
And so right now we're covering a lot of ground here around the world. So I'm excited to have you all here. My name is Jimmy Newsom. I'm the founder of Moving Forward Small Business. My focus is on small businesses, which includes nonprofits. We focus on growth strategies, and we have 3 pillars: innovation, technology, and business strategy. One key component to what we do and where we're seeing success is strategic partnerships. This conversation we have here is a strategic partnership. So we're excited to be here as well. I'm excited to be here. So let's get into the nitty gritty and really start to unpack unlocking your digital potential. So you're seeing these words around. There's so much going on in regards to digital technology. So let's try to demystify some of this. And let's start with my first question. And anyone can start this off. What does unlocking potential and digital mean to you? Because it's a simple phrase, but I can even look at these as 2 separate things: potential and digital. So who wants to kick this off?
Ooh, pick me.
All right, let's go with Sean.
So unlocking digital potential, and it really means like a lot, especially in the nonprofit world. And I've realized this because I built a software company, that most nonprofits are technologically illiterate and inept, and they don't understand how to use certain technologies. And then people are starting to shove stuff down their throats, like AI and everything else like that, to that matter. And to understand that, you have to really just understand, what you're looking to do and how you're looking to use these tools and how you're looking to leverage them for growth, instead of just listening to what people are saying and saying, you need this, you need that. And I feel like the potential is there once you educate yourself properly, and once you learn what you're trying to, like, what these tools can do for you, because everything is there to help you. There's no end all be all solution to anything digital, non-digital. Like, everything is there, it still comes down to you and what you want to be doing. And the potential for growth with digital and technology is really understanding who you are, what you're all about, how these tools are going to help you. How is AI going to help you? It's not going to make your life easier if you don't know how to talk to the thing, but it will help you if you know how to do it right. And I think that's where you can maximize the potential once you learn and understand.
Okay.
I think maximizing the potential really comes down to identifying specifically which of the thousands of tools resonate with you. And there isn't, as Sean pointed out, there isn't a magic wand. There isn't just any one tool that will work for everybody across the board. It's finding what's best for you, for your organization, for your processes. And also, how do you find technology that will help you improve those processes or even replace those processes for you? So you're trading technology for time. I've frequently say that time is the greatest asset that we can't control. And when we can trade technology for time, we can invest that time back into the mission or into our family or into our health, wherever we need to invest that time. But trading technology for that is really where you can really grow the skills. Sometimes it's status quo for the mission, but growth in what the staff is able to do and what the free time and the comfort and just simply not being awake at midnight, making sure the accounting is done, right? So sometimes it doesn't necessarily have to advance the mission, it just has to improve the quality of life. So the potential is huge, but it's finding that right one that's right for that organization. And that's where partnering with somebody to come alongside of you to help identify the right tools, the right place can be a great investment.
Well, can I jump in for one quick second? You said something really interesting. And to that point of understanding what the right tools for you is and how you want to work, that's something that we've actually done within our software company, is because I noticed this with a lot of other companies and people in general, business in general. Like, it's like, here, you take this now. And it's like people try to do a one size fits all, but everybody's unique. Every organization, every business is super unique. Small businesses, nonprofits, large businesses, large nonprofits, everybody has unique factors to them that they work a little bit different than the other guy. And when you understand, who you are, what you're all about, what makes you unique, then you can better narrow down the tools that are going to be in your specific toolbox. They're going to help you build. And I feel like a lot of people miss the boat on that.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
And Matthew.
So we have the last spot. So unlocking potential. I'm just thinking about this. A lot of this concept goes back to my undergrad days of doing some classes in the ad school and also some classes in the business school and in the marketing programs. And there were a number of classes where we went through exercises of how do you build a media plan? How do you create something where you've got at that point in time, it was who your people you're going to get in front of, and how do you cover enough ground so that they're seeing, hearing, watching your message on various different media. Now it's more complicated because it's not just TV and radio and print. Now it's everything else and all the social media platforms and everything there. So for me, unlocking potential would be going back to those old school concepts of how do you create that media plan? How do you get your ICP and put them into that media plan and be present in the conversation on those different locations. So a tool I like to play around with is Sparkturo, where you can actually pop your website in there and it'll give you an affinity network of where your people are hanging out. And it's cool to see, like, everyone thinks, oh yeah, Google and Facebook are the two main things that people think about, but that's not necessarily the case for every website. Sometimes it's YouTube more heavily, sometimes it's Reddit, sometimes it's other sites. And a lot of businesses, even non-for-profits, don't use these tools to figure out, well, where do we allocate our time, money, and effort to actually get in front of the people who are most likely to purchase from us or even just follow us and add us to the consideration set.
Yeah, and these are some very important points. So this brings me to the point where, as I'm listening to everything everyone said, which was amazing and extremely on point, is I'm going to zone in with you, Chris, first, because I say the same thing. As an owner, or as an executive director, as a CEO, as a leadership person in an organization, time is our most important thing. And utilizing that time properly, when we look at the potential for growth in where we are now, how do we leverage our time better to choose these tools or to choose these paths? So let's start there, because that now becomes that next big thing, where if you're a smaller organization, you're still caught working in the business instead of on the business. But when you're in a big organization, you have the ability to focus more on the business because you don't have someone else is doing that other job, so you're not stuck there. What does that process look like as far as getting someone prepared to think more about potential versus day-to-day?
Yeah, I can jump into this one. So
Okay.
I've been on the account management side for a number of tool companies and been on the buying side for these tools also. And it's very complicated because you literally have to come up with, like, here's your have-to-have list. These are the features you need. And you've got some sort of budget price tag limiter, which will limit which software you can choose from. And then you've got to get that approved by some sort of management somewhere where it's either going through security management or someone else has a chime in of what decision you're going to make, and then you have to interview all these tools and go through demos and try to figure it out. And invariably, like a lot of software, it overpromises, it costs more than you think it's going to cost, it takes longer than it's going to take to actually implement. Not everyone's perfect. Now all the tools are throwing in AI, but is AI really helping you? Not really. For me, I would push back and say, like, what exactly do you need? Write down that very short list and then cross half those things out, and then whatever time you think is going to take, double it, and whatever time or money you think is going to cost, triple that, because that's invariably what it does. And then someone's going to have some issue with like connecting some internal system with like, no, we can't share data with this. Sorry, this is just approved. You have to go back to the drawing board and find something else. And it's hard. It's very, very hard. When I first started doing marketing, there were a couple thousand, maybe 100 software tools. The last I checked, which was a couple years ago, the guy that actually started keeping track of the MarTech tools, I think he stopped at about 12,000, 15,000 something tools. And he categorized them between, like, is it email marketing, social media, paid search, paid social, monitoring, competitive analysis, analytics, stuff like that. And it's just a little insane. Like, if you're looking for a CRM tool, I mean, each one of us can probably rattle off probably 50. And that's without trying very hard. And that's just one small isolated tool, and most other people probably can do something similar. So it's I feel for you. Anyone who's out there looking for something, that, yeah, definitely ping each one of us if you got something and question. Highly recommend use crowdsourcing, figure out who's used what for which organization and how did it work? What do you like about it? What do you hate about it? Play the game of, if you had a life vest and that tool was sinking, would you throw the life vest to help save it? And if the answer is no, then go somewhere else.
Well, I was going to jump into that too, because you said something really interesting. It's all about the wants versus the needs. And when I get people on a call with me who are coming to our to learn more about our software, I don't do demos anymore with people, because I find that system demos like leave people with a head feeling like completely all over the place. And so it's about strategy, because software, I learned this a long time ago. Tools, it's all about strategy. Software is about strategy. It's not about SaaS. Doesn't mean software is a solution. It means software is a strategy. How are you going to implement that strategy? What are your wants versus your needs? Technology, anything in technology, anything that you're going to do that's going to enhance your business, it's all about the strategy behind it. And so I sit down, I always ask people, what are your wants? What are your needs? What are exactly what you were saying, Matthew? Like, if you're drowning and you need to save something, what's it going to be? And a lot of people don't know the answer to this question just because they've never been asked this question. They've always been told, you need this, this, and this. And they're like, okay. And when they finally realize that they have to make the decision of how, especially organizations where they're not business people, they're passion people. And you have to run your organization like a business, not like a passion. Otherwise you're going to flop. You have to really understand truly, like, what do I want? What do I need? What's going to be conducive? What's not going to be conducive? And have the strategy for implementation. And that's how you're going to grow. And it doesn't matter what type of technology. You could have the greatest AI systems in the world that does, God knows what. But if you don't have a strategy for implementation or roadmap, you're screwed.
Okay. Chris?
So just to summarize what's been said, so that we're kind of not quite as dire as Matthew made it out to be. That was depressing, Matthew. We need to talk about your sales pitch there. I would say the first thing is to gather the people who are going to be part of the decision-making process, right? So whether it's your executive director, your program team, whoever that is, who's going to be involved. Put together your list of what you have to have. Put together your list of what you want to have. And then start to question, what is it you're actually trying to accomplish with, if I need this, why do I need this? If I want this, why do I want this? What am I trying to accomplish by this tool? If you can't clearly articulate why you need the tool, why you need to change, don't change. If you can't clearly articulate what it is you're trying to accomplish with this effort, I promise you it ain't gonna be worth it. Right? Because you're going to be disappointed. So clearly articulate what it is you're trying to do, what's required for that, what you want for that, with your stakeholders all coming together. And then just Google, what is the best sources for this? What is the best source for that? There are lots of groups out there in the nonprofits and nonprofit groups and small business groups where you can say, I'm looking for software that does this. What do you recommend? And you'll get a long list of options. Oftentimes, the people from those companies chiming in, filter it in your own way, but know ultimately you're the one who has to use it, and that group has to make that decision. So start with that group, keep with that group, and move forward until you get what you want, or simply don't move forward. It's just not worth the effort. Changing software can be a real nightmare if you don't know what you want to accomplish and can't articulate the win in the changing of software or addition of software.
Now, again, lots of great insight here. One thing that I'm picking up is the keyword that I'm pulling out of here. I'm going to use the word. I'm going to say keyword is strategy. And I always say, you don't have a marketing problem, you don't have a finance problem, you don't have a human resources problem, you have a strategy problem. Strategy will point you in the direction to help you make better decisions, no matter what it is. So the question becomes, do you even have a strategy in place? So I'm going to ask you, I'm going to keep this simple. I'm going to ask you, are you running across nonprofits that don't even have a strategy? And so strategy is not a business plan. A business plan is the business plan. The strategy is how you execute the business plan. So give me your thoughts on this to kind of help these nonprofits. And I've ran across organizations, not necessarily nonprofits, that are doing pretty well, and they don't have a business plan or a strategy roadmap. And then they're wondering why they hit a roadblock. We can't get past this certain number. We can't go to the next level. And then when you see that, so give me your thoughts on, what comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah, I think so. I'll jump in here. So, I started working with clients a bunch of years ago, and I had the same thing, like Sean was saying, like you pitch them and they want a demo and they want to walk through this and walk through that, and you do a pitch deck and it'll take you hours and hours.
Oh.
At the end, they were like, "No, sorry, not interested. I'm going to go with someone else." And then I got smarter, like, why don't I just build a model? Like, show them if you enter X number of dollars on this side, it's going to create X number of impressions. And with your average conversion rate, here's the number of widgets we'll be able to sell, signups, whatever it is that you want to have happen. And they're like, oh, wow, that's brilliant. So I'm like, yes. And that's the strategy that a lot of companies and even non-for-profits are missing. That's just one tool. I think the bigger strategy is making sure your why is answered. Like, who are you? What's your mission? What do you do? What's your purpose? What makes you different than everybody else? Like, in a very professional, nice way. I've met some software companies where you ask them those questions, like, who are you? And the first thing out of their mouths is like, oh, so-and-so software is bad. I'm like, okay, that wasn't the question. It's more of, what do your software do? I'm just trying to figure it out. We're dating. We're being professional here. But I think that, yeah, you're right. Strategy is important. Like knowing how your next 6 to 12 months or even 3 years, if possible, are going to work. I love it when companies say, we've got a project management software and we use it. Like everybody uses it. I love it when companies say, we use the OKRs or some other strategic planning tool where you've got big rocks and big boulders that you want to accomplish, and you break them up into smaller chunks. You assign each one to certain people, and you get stuff done. And you've got spreadsheets, and you track all this stuff, and stuff happens. And that's strategic. I think that lack of those things, then you're basically flying blind. You're not sure where your business or not-for-profit's going. It's hard to keep track of money in and out. Even like knowing where your goals are, you hitting your goals or not with whatever you're doing, sales, marketing, anything. You could put banner ads out there, you can buy an ad in Times Square, but unless you know who's supposed to be seeing that ad and how many eyeballs are going past, that was a waste of $1 million.
Well, can I pop in and talk for a second on this one too? Because when it with strategy, and I see this a lot because we bring on a lot of people and most of these nonprofits that I deal with are coming off of spreadsheets or some freemium software that is very minimal, and they're completely disorganized. And they don't have anything, and they've never gotten organized because they're wearing a million different hats. And to sit down and actually get organized is, one of the questions I ask people is in onboarding is like, how clean is your data? And then the ones that know what I'm talking about, they're like, oh yeah, it's whatever. And some of them just kind of look at you like, huh? What do you mean clean? I'm like, Well, where was your stuff before? Where do you keep your records? Where do you track your transactions? How do you do like all these different things? And a lot of these people do not have a strategy in place. And this is why, and then I realized something also, why a lot of nonprofits are broke. Because they don't have a way of tracking, like they're chasing the money. They're always chasing the money, but they never know where, they're never like tracking the money. So they don't know what they actually have in the bank. And when you have a strategy for, it's like a business. When you're always chasing the top, but you don't look for the bottom line, you're going to end up broke. And so a lot of these organizations are the same way. And if you don't have that strategy in place from the beginning, you don't sit down and plan it out. Like, what's your 3 months, 6 months, a year? What are your goals? It's like, great. I know you want money. I've had this question with nonprofits on the marketing side. It's like, so what makes you so special? And I literally ask people very bluntly, what makes you so special? There's a million people who are trying to save the whales. What makes you cool? And a lot of people can't answer the question, and they don't know what their goals are. They're like, "Oh, I want donations." Well, thank you. Everybody wants donations, but how are you going to get there? What's the roadmap? So if you don't come in with strategy, organization, and having a game plan, like it's just not going to end well. And this is why a lot of organizations flop. And I'm sure, Chris, you've seen this, why a lot of there's like 1% of organizations that are like massive organizations. And then the rest of them are just little mom and pop shops kind of like circling around trying to stay afloat. And they're like, oh, we don't have any money. We're volunteer based. So it's all, well, you have to figure it out.
So, Sean, post-it notes are not a strategy?
No, absolutely not. Dear God. Dear God, no.
My mantra has been with many a client, to answer your specific question, Jimmy, is hope is not a strategy. There isn't there may be an overarching strategy, there may be a strategic plan, but strategies in specific areas of what is it I'm trying to accomplish by this action, what am I trying to accomplish in this way, isn't present the vast majority of time. There isn't a strategy as to why I need to free up time, or why I need to investigate different softwares, or why the digital realm is where we need to be, and how and where we're going to figure out where we need to be. That strategy is almost never there. There is oftentimes a strategic plan, but to be honest with you, anybody who knows strategic plans would look at most of the strategic plans and say, this is not a strategic plan. This is an action plan. And those are great. Those are important, but they don't feed up to a greater strategy, and other than the mission. We just hope it's going to work. We just hope it's going to be there. Or we hope we're going to make budget, or we hope, hope is not the strategy. How are we going to do that? What steps are we going to take to help ensure that? That is almost never there in a real strategic way. And that's true across the board in personal lives and business lives and a whole bunch. It is a strategy isn't limited to one facet of what it is we do.
Yeah, there's a tool I use called Cascade. And what they say is 9 out of 10 businesses who actually have a strategy fail. And so just having the strategy alone does not guarantee success. Like you said, there needs to be the counterpoint of that is the execution, and who's responsible to make sure that these things happen, and then who's even checking to make sure that everything is running smoothly. So let's go back to digital real quick, because we went into strategy, and I wanted to do that purposefully because we can't talk about digital or any of these or anything without understanding that if you don't have a strategy, there's where you're already, unfortunately, finding yourself in the wrong spot. But now that we are digital, and Sean, you touched a little bit on this, is messaging, and I've run across many, many nonprofits that just assumed, yes, I mean, there are amazing nonprofits out there. I guess Sean knows where I'm going with this. And it's how do we use digital to, at the end of the day, get what everybody wants, more donations. But the problem is what fails to be said is you have to do a really good job, whether it's digital or analog, or I just went there, to get your message out and make sure that we're hitting the right points for the people. Everybody understand where I'm saying with this?
Yep.
So I'm going to let the reins off and go, how do we take digital and make it actually work to get new members, bring in funding?
Can we keep Sean from answering? Because he's actually vibrating within it. I just don't allow him to say anything. Mute him,
Okay.
Jimmy.
Can I?
I can do that.
Oh, stop! You're killing me here. This is my jam. I'm going to dive into this. It's like what's the biggest problem with nonprofits and businesses? Everybody. There's no difference between nonprofit marketing and for-profit marketing. You're just a tax deductible business. Yay, go you! But when it comes down to the marketing, the messaging, understanding who you are, what you're all about, and why should I give a crap about you? And most people think that, hey, I do good work. People are going to gravitate me because I do this. But you're one of like a million people doing the same thing. So you have to figure out how are you going to raise your hand higher than everybody else. And our fearless leader Brian Wallace taught me this. Is that and this is part of Brian's all fun presentation song and dance number he does. It's like, how are you going to raise your hand? You have to raise your hand higher than everybody else. And how are you going to do that? And with digital, there's lots of different tools that you can play around with. One of the things I like to do in the nonprofit marketing world is like be 10 steps ahead of everybody else. So something that I recently got into with Matthew is playing with a tool called Clay. It's a data augmentation tool and a way to put your list, take your one-dimensional donor list and turn it into a whole world of understanding how you can better communicate and create your message to people and how they're going to respond. Because when it comes to digital marketing, the organizations barely touch their list until they want money from them, and then the people turn around and be like, "Who the hell are you? Why am I giving you money? Like you're now just reaching out to me at the end of the year? Great, I don't care about you. Everybody else is trying to get my money." So the whole goal is constant communication. But if you don't understand who your people are and how you're talking to them, then you're going to miss the boat. And throwing blatant stories out, throwing like random stories out there and be like, "Oh, we did this, this, and this." Nobody cares what you did. How can I get involved? How can I feel like I'm part of the organization without being on the beach saving the whales? And this is something that you can leverage digital tools. This is where you can also leverage AI. You can come in there and talk to AI and see how you can create and understand who your people are better to create that better messaging, to then go out there and run an email drip campaign to them with your CRM that happens to do email drips, and then be able to continue that conversation. And once you see how people are interacting, you can segment them off to higher frequency and lower frequency of interaction and give them the communication they want. Because at the end of the day, people just want to feel like you care about them. And I learned this a long time ago from a mentor of mine. He said, you just got to tap people on the shoulder every once in a while and be like, "Hey, how you doing?" And that's what people care about. And then once you establish that connection and you continue that conversation, it's all about continuous conversation. Once you do that, then you don't have to ask for anything because they're going to come to you. You're building a fan base. You're building stark raving fans, because at the end of the day, you tell them to jump, they say how high. You tell them to give, they say how much and where. And everyone misses the boat on this one. And businesses also, they all want to copy what everybody else is doing, but they don't realize that everybody else is doing is, it's unique to them. And you have to figure out who your unique messaging and positioning behind this. And you could run all the greatest Facebook ads in the world, but if your offer sucks and no one's communicating with you and you have no way of understanding really who you're talking to, then you're just wasting time, money, and energy.
Okay.
How was that?
Very cool. Yeah, that was very in depth. Matthew, you or Chris, and then I'm going to take our first question here.
Yeah, actually, can I take the first question and answer it in part of this whole thing?
Absolutely.
So,
Well, let's make sure they know what the question is. So you want to read the question?
Sure. So Jack asks, it is hard for a non-for-profit because they're trying to show activity in a program, services, and minimize the dollars in G&A. Yet without a G&A investment, it is hard to build a foundation, which is completely true. But now it's even harder than it used to be. Years ago, you could say, right, I'm running an ad on TV and I've got X number of people viewing it, and you've got Nielsen ratings and all this stuff, and you can show, look at all the activity we've got going on. But now it's really complicated because, like Sean was saying, you can throw up Facebook ads into Facebook and track who you think your people are, but they're just seeing the ad, or theoretically they've been exposed to that, but they might not actually see it. And that's really the complicated wizardry behind the scenes called attribution, and psychology and all those other things coming together, where you've got all these activity things out there. You've got ads, you've got organic pieces, you've got people who are fans who are posting, "We love you, so-and-so, non-for-profit," and all these other things going on. But at a point in time, you need to tap your donors on their shoulder and say, I need you to pony up some money. I'm trying to make some amazing work happen. And if the psychology of all that stuff behind the scenes before that hasn't happened, they're going to say, who are you? But if they have seen your ad or your articles, or people have messaged, friends have messaged them about your brand and what you do and all that stuff, then at that point in time, you kept your brand top of mind in their head. And they'll be like, oh yeah, sure, here's a couple dollars, whatever it is. I like to tell clients, like, it's similar to the concept of, in Atlanta, Coca-Cola is headquartered here. So pretend you're walking down the street and you see a billboard that says drink Coke. And you walk past a bus stop and there's a banner that says drink Coke. And you open up your magazine and flipping through the pages and there's an advertisement that says drink Coke. And you go on social media and you're scrolling and someone is mentioning how they just got a new customized Coke can. And then you go out to lunch for somebody and what are you going to do? Jimmy, what are you going to drink? Detroit, maybe, not in Atlanta. But you're going to drink a Coke. And the same thing is true for nonprofits, where you have to be present. You have to have the psychological element. You have to be there. It's not only just Facebook. It's not only an email. It's everything. And building that model of how do we get into that ICP with enough frequency so that they actually do something. I spoke to someone in, I think it was January. They did email marketing. They were telling me some crazy statistic. They were saying that they send emails on behalf of their clients, and there was one client, they sent 30 emails out. The first 29 were all ignored by a certain percentage of people receiving the emails. The 30th people actually clicked open and took action. And they had no recall of the previous 29 emails. And that happens in today's world. There's so much going on. It's not like one email is going to solve it. You have to figure out what time zone and when they open and all these other things. It's more complicated than just like, oh yeah, this one thing's going to do it. It's really not.
Well, before you jump in, Chris, the two things I'm hearing right now, and then I'm going to let you go, Chris. Sean, relationships. Matthew, it's an ongoing process. I'm saying that because I've dealt with this where, they're like, well, how long? I'm like, there is no how long. Marketing is a part of business.
Right.
Okay, go ahead, Chris.
Well, and you know that because Coke is still advertising, right? Is there anybody left in the world who doesn't know what Coke is? I mean, but yet they're a huge advertiser and marketer. So it's an ongoing world for that top of mind awareness. But to go back to Jack, I think what Jack's trying to get at is one of the things we struggle with is taking today's language and applying it to what we have expected and known for a long time. So nonprofits have for 50 years, almost 100 years, done direct mail. And you do direct mail acquisition, right? And direct mail acquisition at its heyday had a 5% response rate. Now it's down to just under 1%. It's about 0.25 for some nonprofits, as much as 0.9 for other nonprofits. Almost nobody's over a 1% in response rate of direct mail. And yet, I would still tell you to go do it. But even in its heyday, you would mail that donor hundreds of times, if not, well, dozens of times, if not hundreds of times, before they respond. So you had built into your budget, into your G&A, if I'm guessing what G&A stands for, and I'm assuming, Matthew, ICP is not Insane Clown Posse. It's Ideal Client. Okay.
See, now I want a Fago.
Yeah, I love Fago. Anyway, is that we've been dealing with this in our language for a very long time. We just have to now take what we're doing today and convert. So you've been investing in one way or another. It's just a matter of saying, okay, this is now how we're investing, either in addition to or in lieu of, and I hope it's in addition to, or at least splitting out your investment budget so that you can still see there is a return on investment at some level, and there is an expectation of money that is not going to be returned. It's an investment into the future, just like any acquisition effort is. And so I think digital, we just struggle to say what that is, because in so many people's minds, digital is free. Because it doesn't cost anything to go on Facebook. It doesn't cost anything to go on to X, or it doesn't cost anything to go on to Instagram as the user. And so it's harder for us to understand there is significant investment in creating the assets and in deploying the assets and in finding the right voice and language and audience inside of that and building that into our conversation. So it's not that it doesn't exist. It's that we in the nonprofit sector have had a hard time converting our language from what we have been doing for decades to what we're doing today.
Can I
Okay.
pop in really quickly to top off his question
Absolutely.
about it? Because not nonprofits. I often say this a lot. Nonprofits are literally walking storybooks, and if you strapped a GoPro camera to a nonprofit founder, you would literally, or everybody in the nonprofit organization, you would have like so much content. And nowadays, because social media, it's all about social media and being real and authentic. Like literally, nonprofits, that's what they breathe, is authenticity and reality. You could leverage these social media platforms. And yes, to your point, Chris, yes, it's Instagram is free, Facebook is free, but the knowledge of how to create the content that's going to resonate with the people, that's not free, but that's an investment you need to look at, and how you're going to grow and engage with your social media. Matthew and I were talking about this with one of our clients, because Matthew works with me, and it's about organic social. For a lot of businesses and organizations, is not what organic social was like 10 years ago, and it's a completely different game. And it's all about creating content and stories and building that fan base and building that audience and building that brand, that when and paid ads are more of a supplement now to organic social, and not like boosting posts or nothing, but paid ads are more of a supplement to bring people in. So you can create content. You just have to get creative. You have to think outside the box. Like the box is here. You want to be like literally down the street. And that's what's going to make you different than everybody else, because everyone's trying to follow the formulas. That's why I hate the LinkedIn formula, the Instagram formula. Like, who cares about the formulas? First of all, understand your people, understand how to talk to them, and then create the content that's going to resonate with them, that's going to get them to keep wanting to do more. And then your admins and everybody within your organization can take part in this and do goofy stuff and fun stuff, but it's all roads lead back into your organization. And you can leverage that free social, but you have to have the right people behind it. And AI can help you with that, as I say, help, but don't put all your eggs in the AI robot basket.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, sorry, go ahead, and then I'll answer the question in the chat.
All right, then there you go. I was going to say we got a great question in there. So Matthew, go ahead.
Yeah. So taking a kudos to Brian Wallace. He introduced me to the book The Go-Giver, and this question directly relates to it. So IO says, interesting that you mentioned emails that get ignored. We've sent 3 emails per week to folks. However, it doesn't feel like people even remember receiving them or find them annoying, despite a decent open rate. Is email dead because everyone is inundated with email, spam, junk? And the answer is no. So going back to what Chris is saying about direct mail and other things, I think it's providing value. I think it is being there at the right time, the right place, and not selling, not pitching, not like doing stuff that's not authentic, and providing value to somebody else so that they're not always buying or doing whatever. Direct mail definitely works. I used to work for a promotional products company, and the thing in there internally that I used there, and also companies I worked at before that, was, if you're going to do a direct mail, make sure it works, make sure it's not trinkets of trash, make sure it talks to your brand and to the people who are receiving it. Because a direct mail piece, as much as Chris says, like, the response rates are very low, psychologically you have to touch it before you throw it out. So that is in your brain already when you touch it and throw it out. It's there. But if you send a higher quality direct mail piece that talks to your brand, now you've got a higher psychological touch point, even if they don't initially respond. But they will respond when the time is right. About emails, it's the same thing. I get a ton of emails. I actually have a separate email account just for like signing up for all sorts of stuff. Probably have like maybe 200,000 unread emails in there, because I just scan through and see what's interesting. And a lot of the emails are pitchy. They're salesy. They're like, we're going to shove things down your throat. And I was like, but I'm not going to read that. It's just too much. Show me stuff that's different and analyze things. Yes, put a soft pitch in there, but like make it different. Mm-hmm. Show me like how the world is different. There's a news commentator. He works out of one of the Atlanta radio stations, and his daily email newsletter is very different than all the other news emails out there, because his is analysis. Here's what happened. Here's what I think. Here's why. Here's the history behind it. And here's predictions of what I think is going to happen in the future. And it's very different than some of the other news outlets that you'll see that they'll say, oh yeah, this whatever bad event happened and the world's coming to an end. But there's no like analysis of what's going on. And I think non-for-profits can do that same business of, like there's a non-for-profit in my neighborhood that does mental health for various different things. And I signed to the newsletter to see what they're sending out, and they've got like sending out links to like Calm app, which is relevant to their community. They're sending out links to like YouTube channels and other stuff. And that's relevant. When I was working for a knee-brace company years ago, we peppered our stuff with stories. We peppered our stuff with interviews with our in-house PT. We included stuff of how to bounce back, considerations when buying products, and sometimes our product wasn't right for people, depending on what your needs are. And that's the stuff you can put in emails. That stuff should be put everywhere. Interesting term that we coined at that company was cuckoo marketing. And I think that relates back 2016 as it does now, where if you just pop up once a month, cuckoo, I'm here, and then you disappear, it's really like a cuckoo bird. Like you're there and then you're gone. And that's not marketing. That's like wasting money and effort. Going back to what the other guy said earlier, like marketing is all the time, always on, and you have to show up all the time for your people. Otherwise, you're nowhere. You don't exist.
So, to answer your question, no, it is not dead. Our own opinion of how often we should be responding and emailing to people is probably the greatest weakness we have in our marketing, because we see it every single time. They're not going to see it every single. Our most dedicated donors are not going to see every communication we post. So sharing the same exact message multiple times in multiple avenues in multiple ways with different subject lines and open rates and is not necessarily a bad thing. So no, by no means is it dead. I would argue that probably its importance is growing now. There's a whole. We have another conversation someday about SMS and text messaging in general and its value and pitfalls. But to answer your question, no, email is not dead. 3 a week or whatever number is right for you, but don't be concerned about whether or not you think it's too many. The fact of the matter is, as you point out in your comment, they don't even remember seeing them because they don't, right? Life happened that day, and they never went back to yesterday's emails. Right, so don't worry about that. It isn't your opinion of how often it is. It's the donor's opinion. I promise you, they will tell you if you're sending them too much stuff. So don't worry about that.
Yeah, and let me jump in finally on that is, and this is what I do hear a lot from business owners in general. I think. And I'm just like, no, it's not about what you think, and I think that biggest missing piece is some level of communication. How often are you communicating? I always say, if you want to really figure out what people need or want, go back and look at all of the emails they've sent you and their questions, their ideas, their gripes. You learn so much because there's gold in those minds to understand how you might continue to evolve, which is why marketing is an ongoing thing. It is an evolution. Just like Matthew said, it's changed from the past to the future, and sometimes the past becomes the future again. But if you don't have your eye on the ball, these things can be easily missed. Or if you're just doing it because it's just a motion thing, this is a box that I have to check off. And I think one of you had talked about that. Being more purposeful than just checking off boxes. So you have to ask the question: are you just checking off boxes, or are you actually doing the right thing for the brand? Does anybody want to jump in on this?
No, I think you summed it up pretty good, Jimmy.
Okay. All right. So then we're almost close to the top of the hour, and I haven't even gotten through half the things I was going to ask, which is a good thing because, again, it seems like we had some great conversations from Io and Jack over here with some great questions. I guess my final question before we kind of close it out and see if there's any final questions for our smaller nonprofits, and I'm talking all the way down to one person organizations. It's easy I find a lot of success when I'm working with bigger organizations because they have more resources to work with. They have data in place. They have things. Even if they don't know how to use it, it's easy for me to come in and go, here's a starting point. For smaller organizations, you got a solo executive director who's wearing all the hats because they're trying to figure out their first hire. or they've got 2 or 3 people. How do they start to leverage digital? How does that look for them?
That's a great question. That's a great question. How do you start leveraging? Again, you have to know, it comes back to your wants versus your needs, and how can you get the most bang for your buck? And again, not to self promote my product or anything, but this is specifically why we built it. We built our whole software company for small to medium sized organizations, predominantly the small ones, because everyone's trying to sell them tools that they don't need. Like Salesforce has no space in the nonprofit world. I'm sorry to all you Salesforce and HubSpot people. Salesforce for nonprofits has no place in this world because people do not know how to use it. And people are sold on you have 10 free licenses, but Salesforce for nonprofits is free like a puppy. And like having the right tools, having something that grows with you, so that way you're able to keep making the right decisions and not have to be worried about, oh, this is going to, I literally had a call with somebody today, and she's like, we're scared to grow because we're grandfathered in the free MailChimp plan, and we're grandfathered in on this plan, but the minute we hit a threshold, they're going to start charging us more money, and we're kind of like, I don't know. And it's just like, well, that's stupid. You have to figure out, like, if you're an organization that's looking to grow, which I hope to God you are, you have to set yourself up with the right stuff in the beginning. And then once you have that infrastructure, once you have that base, and you can build up. Like, you wouldn't build a house without a foundation, unless you're an idiot. But, like, that's what you need. And finding the right software tools and the right solutions that are going to be part of your strategy, your growth strategy, and help you build and help you grow. That's the key, especially for these small organizations, because all you want to do is change the world, and if you have the right things working for you, you can change the world and then some, and maybe even get paid.
Okay. Anybody else want to jump in on that?
Yeah. So I would say, if I'm working with a very, very small nonprofit, so that the founder's the one doing it, it's either entirely volunteer based or that's the only paid person, is that founder, that CEO, executive director. I would encourage them to find moments in the day to capture and share what you're doing to change the world. So if you are saving the whales, or if you are providing food baskets or mental health, whatever that is, you've just done something in your mission. Before you move on to the next task, take a second and share what you just did. So Facebook may not be right for you. Instagram may not be right for you, but whatever you're comfortable with, at least to get started, start capturing and sharing what you're doing in that authentic voice, in that natural way. Of course, be mindful of client confidentiality and all that kind of stuff you can do. You can just say, I just had a conversation with a struggling family, and we were able to provide them a food basket because there was too much month at the end of the money, and we were able to help them make the ends meet because of generosity like yours, right? And just taking a moment to share that, working that into your day, in your routine of, okay, I'm going to help this client, I'm going to talk to this person. My next step is to share what I'm doing, so that I'm not that cuckoo marketing. I'm out there talking about what's doing, and it will get discovered. It will be seen one way or another. Of course, videos, all the better, but even just doing it in text, taking the time, working into your routine, how you're going to share what you do would be the first step I would take. And then as soon as you have the power to do it, bring somebody in to help you with that, whether it's an intern or someone who's going to help you find that strategy for what you actually want to do, because otherwise it's just actions, and actions are great, but actions without strategy is hope.
Okay. Any final thoughts, Matt, before I close it out?
I would say the biggest advice is do the crawl, walk, run model, where start small. Don't say I'm going to post on every single social media thing 5 times a day for a week, because you're not. I would figure out what is the minimum number of things you can do in a week, and do that for a month. And then look at your schedule and what you got to do and say, all right, now I want to ratchet it up. Add a little bit. And then after a year, you'll look back and like, wow, 365 days later, I've done so many more things. And if I just went too far too quickly, I'd burn out, stop, and then crash and burn and nothing.
Okay. Now we're about 2 minutes at the top of the hour, so wow, incredible conversation, great insight. Love the questions that came in. Um, we're talking about unlocking digital potential for each of you. Actually, Jack just said, Chris, I like all of this, but the idea of announcing the mission related thing we do every day, even in the for-profit business, is a good idea. Thanks. A nonprofit is a business. Absolutely, absolutely, it is. So, and I think that's part of the reason why we created this series, because my role in all this is to get small businesses and medium-sized businesses, and of course large businesses, which they're already ahead of us anyway, to start to work and partner more with nonprofits, because there's synergy there, there's impact levels there. It makes it easier for both sides to get things done, which is where our next conversation next week is about the power of we, where we can talk more, where this could be one of those strategies specifically for very small nonprofit organizations to leverage the power of other organizations, which brings in more human capital for your mission. So this is exciting times. This is, if we can start to grasp this and look at this, I love what Sean, it was either Sean, you or Matthew, where you talked about, the fact that you can leverage so much more through, I just totally messed that up. I had the thought and I lost it because I got three thoughts going on at the same time. But let's get any final comments about today's topic. And if I can remember what I was about to say, I'll throw it in there. But let's get whoever wants to go first. Give us a final closing before we close out today and get ourselves ready for next week. What's a takeaway? Yeah, give me a takeaway.
The takeaway is, no matter how much information we share in a panel like this, it's never going to answer all of the questions that are out there. And so take the opportunity to align with any of the four of us. Will have our information out there to reach out. How can we help you? And the questions we didn't get to, the points we haven't gotten to, we're really going to be able to apply in that VIP session at the end, that fourth session, to actually see hands-on how to do it. So I would encourage you to take that as well. So not a sales pitch. It isn't even our money. We don't care. It's going to our nonprofit partner. But we really believe that helping you makes the world a better place. And ultimately, I have kids. I want to leave a better world too.
Okay.
I mean, I'm kind of with Chris on this one, is that, the whole goal is everyone, we're here to help. We're here to all work together and help you change the world. And so I always like to do this. I always say my door is always open. I'll help you unconditionally. I have zero expectations on anybody for anything. I just like to help you. So if you're looking to learn more and get some insight, my contact information is going to be there as well. And I'm excited for the next panel to come around.
Yeah, definitely crowdsource. I think that's the best word of advice. Is I think a lot of people are not special. You're not going to find bugs everything, and you're not going to find the perfect software. Like, ask people, what software do you use? What do you like? What don't you like? What methods are you doing? What marketing are you doing? Ideas. Hey, can you just take a look at this print ad? What do you think about it? And just get feedback and take that feedback and see what you can do to make better.
Gotcha. And speaking of crowdsourcing, I like that. Share this with your colleagues, share this with others in the nonprofit world. Again, for us, it's really about trying to get, we've all done this for a very long time, and so this is our giving back. This is us going, how can we provide feedback based on our knowledge and our experience and what we've seen out there, especially from the standpoint of someone that's always being pitched either to be a part of a nonprofit's system or family, or being pitched to donate. I always say in marketing, I hate cute. I want to understand what's going on. And if you can do a really good job of that and tap into my reason why, why me, why you're communicating with me, you're going to have a better response from me. Okay.
There you go.
With that being said, I appreciate it. Thank you, Io, for joining. Next week, we'll be talking about the power of we. And that's one of my favorite topics. So I look forward to hearing all of what Matthew, Chris, and Sean have to say on that for nonprofits and how you can start to really bring, your nonprofit to that next level and future-proof your nonprofit. So without further ado, you will get the replay. It will have all of our contacts. So on behalf of Matthew, Chris, Sean, and myself, thank you for showing up. And we'll see you in session 2 next week, unless it's already on replay. See ya when we see ya.
Peace and love.
Thank you.